Open the door, Mr. Miller. You're under arrest. Let me tell you, that's not the kind of thing you ever expect to hear, pounding through your front door at sunrise, especially not when you're standing in the kitchen half awake wearing nothing but a ragged flannel robe and clutching your first cup of coffee like a lifeline. No, sir. That was the sort of knock that rattles the glass panes, the kind of banging you hear right before someone kicks your whole world sideways. I mean, who the hell gets arrested by the HOA? So there I was, mug halfway to my lips, heart beating double time, while my wife Emily appeared behind me, her hair tied back and her eyes saying, "Seriously, what now?" I set the coffee down, patted over, and peeked through the side light. Four men in shiny polyester enforcement shirts, tactical boots, the whole Halloween special, standing in formation on my porch like they were about to take down Pablo Escobar. Two up front, two behind, sunglasses on holster on the hip of the tall one. That's when I realized Greg Morrison, my neighbor, professional busybody, HOA board member, the kind of guy who'll chase you down to lecture you about mailbox colors, but now standing there like he was leading a SWAT team. You can't make this up. I cracked the door chain still in place and said, "What is this?" Greg stepped in closer and that smug half smile curled across his lips. "Step aside, Josh. We've had credible reports of a violation and a threat to neighborhood security. Your wife needs to come with us for questioning." I blinked, thinking questioned by the HOA. Greg just shrugged like this was all perfectly normal. "This can go easy or hard. Your choice." The two guys behind him tried to look tough but just shifted around like backup dancers who'd forgotten their routine. Emily stepped up next to me, cool as a mountain lake in her gray jacket and black pants. She took one look at Greg and said, "Do you have a warrant?" Greg stuttered. What?" "A search warrant, arrest warrant, any paperwork at all? Or are you just out here playing dress up before breakfast?" One of his guys coughed, trying not to laugh. Another shifted toward the street. Curtains were twitching. Greg's jaw went tight. "I don't need a piece of paper to keep this neighborhood safe," and he put his hand on his fake pistol like that was supposed to mean something. Emily didn't even blink. "Josh, call the sheriff's office. Tell them we have 4 armed men impersonating officers on our porch." And just like that, Greg's confidence started to leak out his ears. But let me back up a sec, because none of this would have happened if not for that deck. 2 weeks before life was pretty much normal, I had finally finished the deck, $8,000 in cedar and sweat. I'd hired Mark Henderson, best contractor in Willow Creek, and we did it by the book down to the last inch. That Saturday we had a barbecue. Neighbors came over, Mrs. Wilson brought her famous potato salad, even the Johnsons showed up with sweet tea. It was one of those evenings where you almost forget how messy life can get. Laughter drifting over the fences, kids running wild, someone playing guitar. Emily was there smiling, but every now and then her eyes would scan the street phone out, thumbs moving. I chalked it up to work. She's with Social Security paperwork, never sleeps. But something felt off. Then came Sunday morning, and that first crack an envelope in the mailbox, glossy green HOA crest on the front. Inside violation notice. Unauthorized construction. Deck exceeds allowable height. Fine $250 a day, effective immediately. For a deck they'd already approved. I was furious. Emily just looked up from her laptop and said, "Then take it down. It's not worth it." This from the woman who once spent 3 months fighting the HOA over the shade of gray on our mailbox. Something in her eyes told me not to push. Later, Mrs. Wilson caught me by the curb. "Josh, be careful. They've done this before. 3 families, all corner lots. They push you to sell cheap houses, disappear." Her voice stuck to me like smoke. That night, strange cars started creeping by, headlights sweeping our house, then rolling on. Black SUV idled outside for an hour. Emily said I was paranoid, but sometimes I'd catch her peeking out the window too. And then the strangest thing, I caught Emily meeting a man in a suit outside the Willow Inn motel. They spoke in hushed voices, exchanged something. Then she drove home like nothing happened. I didn't know what to think, cheating, scamming. Was she in trouble? Or deeper than that, I started noticing more the daily violation notices piling up, always signed by Teresa Collins, the HOA queen. Emily got quieter, always on her phone making calls outside. "Don't worry, I'm handling it," she'd say, but her eyes said otherwise. Mrs. Wilson kept warning me. They did it to the Harrisons, the Parkers, fine till they sold, then the developers snapped up their homes. Teresa's just the face. Hale's the money. I pressed Emily one night, but she said some things are better if you don't ask. That cut me deeper than any fine. That night I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m. I peeked out the window. Greg was parked at the curb, just sitting there. That's when I realized this wasn't about a deck anymore. The next day, a contractor named Michael Carter showed up. Said the HOA sent him flash paperwork from other families, all the same pattern. Minor infractions, massive fines, foreclosure. He made it sound like business as usual, a win-win if I played ball. I told him to get lost. That night I followed Emily back to the Willow Inn and saw her meet Carter. He handed her something, she checked the lot, then left. Was she cheating? Or was she in on something way bigger? The next night the pounding on the door started again. This time 4 guys in police gear. "Mr. Miller, you're under arrest for harassment and threats against the Homeowners Association." Greg again, badge-pinned crooked, trying to play cop. I tried to reason with him, but he just kept his hand on his fake pistol. Then Emily appeared, wiping her hands on a dish towel, calm as a stone. "Do you have a warrant signed by a judge?" Greg froze. "I don't need a piece of paper." Emily stared him down. "Then you're not police. You're criminals impersonating officers, which is a federal offense." And then the twist. Emily pulled a badge from her jacket. Black leather, silver crest, 3 big letters. FBI. The whole porch went silent. "Step away from my husband," she said, her voice low and steady. "You're interfering in an active federal investigation." Greg's face went pale. The other guys started backing up. Emily told them, "You've got 60 seconds before real law enforcement swarms this place." That was all it took. They scattered. I stared at Emily, my wife, FBI. The deck, the fines, the late nights, the motel, all of it snapped into focus. At the kitchen table, hands shaking, I asked how long. She just said, "A while." She explained it all. The Bureau had been investigating the HOA for years. Not just fines and harassing neighbors, but full-on real estate fraud and money laundering. Hale, the developer, was the real kingpin. Teresa, Greg, even Michael Carter, just middlemen. I demanded to know why she'd lied, why she'd kept me in the dark. "To protect you," she said, but it stung. And then, just to twist the knife, a video showed up in my inbox. A deep fake of me passing cash to Carter at the diner, proof, if you didn't look too close, that I was dirty. And then an email. "Your wife isn't FBI. Next time she won't protect you." A couple days later, a mandatory HOA meeting was called. The whole neighborhood packed into the clubhouse, Greg at the front, acting like a mob boss. He played the fake video on a giant screen, told everyone I was bribing contractors, corrupting the community. Emily just squeezed my hand under the table. When it was finally her turn, she stood up cool as ever and played her own footage, surveillance clips of Greg, Teresa, and Carter swapping envelopes, plotting to run families out. The room erupted. Greg tried to shut her down, but then Emily flashed her badge, Special Agent FBI. That's when real agents burst in. Blue and red lights, tactical teams, Greg, Teresa, Carter all cuffed and dragged out. But Hale, the real mastermind, was still out there. 2 days later, he called Emily directly. "You think you've won? I own this neighborhood?" And that night, masked men broke into our house. Michael Carter among them. Shots fired, chaos everywhere. Emily moved like lightning gun in one hand, badge in the other. "FBI," she screamed. Carter laughed. "We don't answer to badges." In the chaos, he turned on us and Hale's voice crackled over the radio, mocking, promising we'd never be safe. Smoke grenades, flashbangs, by the time it cleared, they were gone. Just a single black card on the table, RH. The FBI moved us the next day under guard, but Emily wouldn't let it go. When intel came in that Hale was holed up at an old lake house she strapped on her vest, handed me a Kevlar panel and led the raid herself. Bullets flying, agents shouting, Hale stood in the middle of it all, calm as ice, telling me I was just another pawn. Carter jumped out with a rifle aimed at me. Emily shot him, dragged me behind cover, and asked if I trusted her. I did. Hale ran, but we chased him to the loft. He fired at me, hit the vest, knocked the breath out of me. Emily shot back, sent Hale crashing through the window into the black lake below. No body was ever found. Just silence, ripples on the water, and the end of a nightmare, or so we thought. The neighborhood changed after that. New committee, old neighbors coming home, kids riding bikes again. Emily and I rebuilt the deck, sat out there in the evening light, trying to stitch our lives back together. She apologized for the lies, for letting me walk blind into the storm. I told her, you kept me alive. That's enough. And for the first time, I meant it. But trust doesn't erase fear. 1 week later, a package arrived, no return address. Inside, a silver cufflink RH engraved on the side. No note. Just a reminder that monsters don't always drown, and some stories aren't finished just because you want them to be. So let me ask you, when it comes to justice, who do you trust? The ones who smile and write the rules, or the ones who break them to keep you safe? Tell me below, and if you've ever tangled with a monster hiding behind a neighborhood sign, I want to hear your story. Because sometimes the real battle for home isn't fought over fences or decks. It's about figuring out who you really are when everything you thought you knew turns upside down. You know what I mean?